approved so that nobody ever gets sued. All right, let's start with real quick, our Texas data. Got some good stuff to share with you. Give me a second. Let's go ahead. I'm just gonna do it on here. Here we go. Everybody can see it? You're good? All right, let's go. 2020 and 2021, vastly different years, right? And you can see we have a lot of green. We have one red, but let's talk about everything. Agent count within our teams that are on this call. Last year we had 53 agents, which was really good. We were so happy to hit that 50 mark. Now we have 88 agents. And I think Jordan told me that, like, I think they hired like 3 in like the last couple of weeks. So way to go, Jordan. That is 66% increase, which is really nice because 21 of you are in launch, right? The rest of you have been here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus years, but some of you are just starting with us. So welcome to the club. It is a great place to build your business. Listings last year we were at 98. This year we're at 84, right? So we're down actually 14%. It's the only red category. However, I do want to give you guys a shout out since we talked about it last time. You guys added 10 listings, right? So that's really, really awesome. I know we're going to get this number to green, and then we will control our price point. We'll control our market. We will have the market share that we desire because that buys us leverage, right? We get our nights and weekends back that way. Buyer reps, check it out. 271 last year. 386 this year. We have no shortage of buyers, right? We're always talking about that. We're up 42%. Pending contracts, 144 last year, it felt really good. We were so close to that 150 number. This year, 258. We are up 78%, which is really cool because I look at, okay, are we up agents? Yes, but we're even more up pending contracts, which is awesome. Pending volume, we went from 49 million to 102 million this year. It's up 108%. Closed units. Oh, this makes me so happy. We closed 314 units the first half of the year last year, 543 this half of the year. Feels really good. 73% increase. Closed volume 97 million to 198 million. All that's happened is 1 year. Like, it will be amazing the rest of this year. GCI, we love GCI. GCI, we have that conversation because it's how you make money. It's how we get to pay our bills, and it's how we get to have a profit margin, right? So it's a win-win-win across the board, up 108%, and agent income is up 108%. That is awesome. Write this down. We sell 3 houses per day, 22 houses per week, $8 million in sales volume per week. So it feels good. It looks good. Share this on your listing presentations, your buyer consults. You guys have a network that is incredible. I counted 9 referrals between you guys just last week. So I think it's pretty awesome. The other real quick thing I want to talk to you about is, Jordan, are you on the call this morning? Yes, no? Well, if Jordan's on the call, she'll like speak up. But if not, I think Jordan has an event next Thursday, right? So like, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go to her Instagram. It's all over her Instagram. Click on the event. If you can go and number one, support her.
I can speak to it if you want.
Awesome, please do. Go for it.
Yeah, so Jordan's our KWYP president for Dallas Metro. I am the social events chair, so I plan all the social events. But we are doing this really, really awesome in-person event. And our guest speaker, Mr. Chris Suarez, who on my screen is like down here. Super exciting. I think this is Chris's first in-person event since the pandemic. So he's doing it with KWYP, which we're so excited. I believe the Dallas Metro chapter is the closest chapter to Austin and Midland. So if you guys want to do a day trip, it is, I believe, from 10 to 4. I'm happy to post a link after, when Alina's talking to the Eventbrite where everyone can go. If you are a member of KWYP, it is free. If you are not a member, it is $60. It is not an age-restricted event by any means. Chris is not the only speaker. Jordan will also be speaking, as well as Amanda Knight, who is an agent that gets a lot of her business from social media. She's a single agent right now with an assistant and a showing agent. She's on track to close about 100 units. So they're both amazing people to learn from. And of course, we're going to have Chris there, who we already know is amazing to learn from. So I will definitely put the link down below. And if you guys have any questions about YP, of course, Jordan and I are both resources for that.
You're the best, Elizabeth. Thank you so much. Yes, do pop that link in. And I did tell our Austin team for sure. And Jordan has been so generous, you guys. Like if you're going there for a day trip, like if you're coming in from out of town, you can stay at Jordan's house like free of charge. She is just so generous with her hosting and her time. And if you know agents in Dallas, this would be a really great opportunity for them to learn from some of the very best. So thanks, Elizabeth, for chiming in on that. This morning, guys, we have Chris. So if you're like one of those 21 people who are just brand new to launch and you're like who are all these people, first of all, it's all good. It's all great. Chris is awesome. Like when I think of people who, number one, have built an incredible business, I think of Chris. When I think of people who not only have built an incredible business, but have, moved from like one side of the country to another side of the country and had done it twice, I think of Chris. And then when I think of who has like built a business that I feel is respectable and also has an amazing reputation, I think of Chris. And then the last thing I think about is who's built a business that's huge and awesome, stayed in business with a lot of people, works really hard, and has built a really experiential life. I think of Chris, right? So all of us want to be Chris, right? Myself included. And this morning we get Chris. Chris, do you want to be spotlighted or do you want to be on gallery? What do you want?
No, I like gallery.
Okay, all right. Well, all you guys, look alive. Chris wants to see you. Chris, it's all yours. It's rock and roll.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. Dude, you guys are just a powerhouse, like across the state, which is so awesome to be part of. And I just appreciate the opportunity to come in and feel your guys' energy for sure. So let's just jump in, guys. I want to respect everybody's time, and that's one of the things that I care most about is time and how we use it and how do we leverage it and how do we make the most of it and how do we experience it. So Adelina and I were talking, and there are just so many good things that are happening for so many of our people. Today, we wanted to talk about something that I think regardless of where we are in our business here on July 1st, the first day of the second half of the year, regardless of whether we're just having our breakout year, the best year ever, maybe the first half of the year just feels like we got beat up. Maybe we're just jumping in and we're not sure which way we're going to end up. When I think of your group and when I think of what we're creating together, this word just keeps on coming to my mind, and it's the word excellent. So maybe like I'd love to get some interaction. So it's just not me, but when you hear the word excellence, what do you think of? Like when you think of a person, when you think of a business, when you think of an organization, if you use the word excellence, what do you think of? You could just jump in. Memorable. I'm reading the chat. Some people are shy. They don't want to use their voice.
Hey, Chris. Can you?
Hey.
Sorry. When I think of excellence, I think of something done at a high level consistently.
Okay. So you're headed right towards results. Like you're like, hey, if it's gonna be excellent, it better be done at a high level every single time, which means systems lead to excellence, right? Sure. What else? Something memorable, prestigious, done right. Anyone else have anything that comes to mind when they think of excellence?
I think of high standards, high results.
Yeah, I think standards have to show up that way. Where does it come from? Where does the drive or wanting to be excellent come from? Tony, you just used a word in the chat that leads to it for sure. Integrity. It comes from consistency. I'm going to share a story that I came across, and everybody always cringes when I use sports analogies, but this was an interview that was done with Ray Allen. Ray Allen is one of the greatest shooters the NBA has ever seen, a 10-time All-Star. It has the greatest was the greatest, right? Because he's not playing anymore. I might have that wrong, but it was the greatest 3-point shooter in the history of the league, still to this day. And a commentator was interviewing him one day. and was saying, gosh, your shot is just amazing. Like, you're just excellent at what you do. And he said, you were born with the shooting touch. Right. In other words, right, Ray Allen had this innate gift for 3-pointers. Now, if you watch that interview, something happens. Oftentimes, when someone gives a person a compliment, right, you're supposed to kindly accept it. However, this is what Ray Allen said. He said, I have argued this with a lot of people in my life. And then he said this, when people say God blessed me with a beautiful jump shot, it really pisses me off. I tell those people, don't undermine the work I've put in every single day. Not some days, he said, every day. Ask anyone who's been on any team with me who shoots the most. Go back to Seattle, go back to Milwaukee and ask them. And the answer is always me. He was excellent, not because he was born that way, not because he had the right personality, not because like physically his body was cut out for it or made for it. In fact, the interviewer, the commentator, then began to go back and say, well, gosh, let's figure this out. Let's research this. And so we went back to Ray Allen's high school basketball coach. And he said, hey, how was Ray Allen's shot? Like, how was his jump shot in high school? And the coach said, it wasn't noticeably better than his teammates' jump shots back then. In fact, his jump shot was poor. But Allen took control, and over time, with hard work and dedication, he transformed or changed his jump shot into one that was so graceful, that was so perfect, that people assumed he was born with it. So interestingly enough, in every organization, I'll look around and there are some people that look like they were born to do what they do. Like they just look natural at engaging with a buyer or a seller. They sit in front of the client and they're just like, they have a gift and they come back with the agreement every time. And then some of us are like, oh, okay, great. Let's go do that. And you come back with no signature and come back with no signature and come back with no signature. And you know what? That's okay. Because so did Ray Allen, the greatest 3-pointer, right, shooter ever. Like, he missed a lot of shots and he just worked at it. He wasn't born that way, but he was willing to show up every day. Even when he was excellent, he just kept showing up. And that isn't about, the conversation isn't about, guys, just keep working. Like, we got another 6 months, just keep working. Like, that's just not, it's not who I am. Like, I want everybody to use the 6 months that we have the right way. But don't believe that ability is either yours or not yours, or theirs or not theirs. Ability shows up based on the rhythm that we're willing to play at. One of the things that Anders Ericsson talks about. Anders Ericsson is right, like you guys know by now, if you show up on Friday, he's one of my favorite was one of my favorite behavioral psychologists. He recently passed away last year. But he talks a lot about how our brains are adaptable, and that the purpose of training is actually to create skills that didn't exist before. So when you look at those that are truly excellent, they don't get to a point where their skills are good and then they go out and execute. They don't get to a point where, hey, now I know what to do and now I'm going to go out and execute, right? There are 21, 22 people going through launch right now. Like, amazing. That's incredible. And I promise you, at the end of launch, you will not be excellent. Like, I'm 23 years in and I am not yet excellent. Like, my goal is to continue making sure that my brain is adaptable, because if it is, we're always on that path of excellent. We're creating our own potential. I'm gonna share a little history lesson. These few lessons or stories completely blew my mind. So in 1908, we're gonna go to the Olympics, 1908. A guy named Johnny Hayes won the Olympic marathon. And at the time, what spectators called the greatest, right? It was labeled in the paper the next day, the greatest race of the century, right? So go back the century, like it was like from 1808 to 1908, the greatest race of the century. And that's because he set a world record. He ran the marathon in 2 hours, 55 minutes and 18 seconds. Like no one had ever done that. Today, right? Barely a century later, the world record for the marathon is 2 hours, 2 minutes and 57 seconds, right? Barely a century later, we went from the world record being 2 hours, 55 minutes to 2 hours, 2 minutes. Interestingly enough, if I don't know if anyone's a runner here, but if you've ever run the Boston Marathon, in order to even get accepted into that, you have to have run another marathon and no greater than 3 hours and 5 minutes. So think about that. Like what used to be a world record is like a starting gate for the Boston Marathon. Like you're barely running over 3 hours in order to just get in. And this was a phenom just a century ago. Same Olympics, 1908, at the high dive competition, someone tried a double somersault and nearly was killed. Double somersault, nearly killed in the 1908 Olympics. In fact, right after the Olympics, the Olympic Committee got together and said, hey, we are banning that dive. Nobody can do a double somersault. It is just too dangerous. Today, the double somersault is like entry level. Like 10, no joke, 10-year-olds are if you have a 10-year-old, 10-year-olds are doing double somersaults. Just 100 years ago, it was banned from the Olympics. And now, right, like Olympic divers are doing 2.5 backward somersaults with 2.5 twists just to show up on the diving board. Do you see what's happening? 1973, this one's my favorite one. 1973, David Richard Spencer, Canadian, had memorized a bunch of digits of pi, right? 3.14, that's where I end. But he had, that number goes on forever. I'm not a mathematician, but it just goes on forever. He memorized, 1973, 511 digits of pi. Like what? 511 digits of pi. 5 years later, 1978, just 5 years later, an American, David Sanker, shows up to a competition and had memorized 10,000 digits of pi, right? Like he gets up and just starts like spitting out numbers, right? 10,000 digits of pi. Like why, I'm not sure, but he did. Now in 2015, guys, after another 30 years, the title holder was an Indian man, Rajveer Meena. He shows up to a competition and recites from memory 70,000 digits of pi. It took him 9 hours and 7 minutes straight of reciting numbers. And we're thinking, what in the world? How? 1973, 511, that's enough. 2015, 70,000 digits. Now, I won't tell you how many the latest competition showed up with, 100,000 digits, 100,000 digits, just memorized. So here's the deal, like how, right? How? Humans were not born differently. We haven't evolved with a better memory, right? Or more flexible bodies to do more somersaults or faster legs to run faster in the marathon. While ability of some people are extraordinary, what Anders Ericsson shared is there's no mystery to how those people got better and better and better. They practiced a lot. What has happened is we have learned better ways to do everything. We have learned better ways to practice. The world record for the marathon was cut by 30% over a course of a century because people weren't born more talented. They just practiced differently and learned differently. And I think that's important for all of us to make sure that we never begin to think that someone else is doing something that we wish we were doing, but we're not, because of anything other than willingness to change, to learn, to practice. It is not your inborn ability. Now, here's what's interesting. This has opened up an entire study of how do we practice, right? Do we just grab some scripts and are we just reciting it to ourselves? Guys, we have built our organization a certain way so that we have deliberate practice, right? Deliberate practice requires feedback. Now, some of us don't love feedback. Like, we don't really love to script practice. We don't really love to make calls in front of people. We don't really love to engage at that level. And you know what? Then we're not practicing. We're going to run the 2-hour 55. Well, we're not going to run a 2-hour 55-minute marathon, but we're going to run our 4-hour marathon. Like, we're just not going to get better. And that therein lies our frustration. It is the only reason why that agent after agent after agent in our industry tops out. Like, that is a fundamental flaw in our industry. Our industry does not provide a platform outside of here that allows people to get better every single day if they want to. We can't make people get better. We can't make them practice the right way. We can't make them show up and do the right activities. But it's a fundamental truth of any sort of practice. If we don't push ourselves beyond our comfort zone, then we will never improve. A few weeks ago on our Friday call, I used a word, and I don't assume that people remember what I say or think about what I say, but I used the word stasis. Stasis. What does stasis mean? When you hear that word, maybe think back to that call. What is stasis?
Staying in one place.
Staying in one place. Yeah. What else? When you hear the word stasis, what do you think of?
Stable.
Yeah, like stagnation, stable, flatline. Anyone feel like maybe right now they hit that? Stasis, we may hit that because we're tired too, guys, right? Stable is actually a really good word, but I think if we're not careful, we'll look at that as a positive. It is easy to take any negative, and if we're positive people, or we tend to rationalize, which is a word I think a lot about. I think human beings tend to rationalize things away, right? We try to rationalize why we don't need to do that, why we don't want to do that, why that's not going to work for me, why that's your thing, not my thing. Rationalization is a really scary thing to get to, but truly, I think rationalization leads to stasis. Now, stasis just means truly it is, like, the definition is stability. And we might think, well, that's awesome. But in business, it's not, right? Because a business is never stable. It is, especially our industry, it is either declining or it's improving. By nature, the fact of being excellent, I promise you, if you are excellent, your business will be growing. If you are excellent, your business is growing. If it's not growing, then I have to personally say, gosh, where do I need to get more excellent? But here's the challenge. And here's why this is not easy. And here's why this may be the most difficult concept for us to internalize. And honestly, it needs to be this mantra for us for the next 6 months or the next 90 days or for the rest of the year, is we have to fight stasis, guys. Even if you just had the best half year of your life, it's easy to fall into stasis. It's easy to say, well, I just had the best 6, why? Because the human body is designed that way. Our human body is designed to prefer stasis. We said this a couple of weeks ago on our Friday call. Our body maintains a normal temperature, right? Like last week, it was 115 degrees in Portland. And when I got stuck on the plane for 45 minutes and I was sweating embarrassingly, like why was my body sweating other than the woman next to me was freaking out? But I was sweating because my body was trying to maintain its normal temperature, which for me is 98.7 degrees. I know that that's my metric. I take body metrics. Like my body was doing whatever it could to go back to 98.7 degrees. It felt 110. So the reality is the body will change to move us to stasis. It tries to maintain a stable blood pressure. In fact, what happens when your blood pressure goes up? You start like not you, but some people, like they start breathing heavier, they start stressing out. Some people start sweating. Why? Because your body's trying to get your blood pressure down. Same thing with your heart rate, glucose levels, pH balance, everything in our body is trying to maintain stasis. Well, guess what? It's why so many people's business looks the same year after year after year after year after year after year, because our activities are trying to maintain stasis, right? You did 5 deals last year, you did 5 deals this year, you did 5 deals next year, and you're like, oh, this system doesn't work. Don't blame the system, blame stasis. Because we've proven now hundreds of times over that there is no cap on production in our system. It's just moving our bodies out of stasis. There's a pattern in physical activity that creates change in the body. And we talked about this in the past, but I'm gonna bring it back. And when a body system, right, any system, and as I talk about the body, I want you to think about your business, right? Don't think about your body, think about the business. When any system in our body, right, certain muscles, our cardiovascular system, anything else is stressed, right? It's stressed to the point that homeostasis can no longer be achieved or maintained. Our body responds brilliantly. It's how we were designed. It's amazing, right? So if I decide I'm going to be a runner, right? If I decide I'm going to shoot for that 2 hour 55-minute marathon, well, then I better get running, right? I better get practicing. And so on Monday I go out, and Tuesday I go out, and then Wednesday I go out. And what happens if I'm just starting? Oh my gosh, like my legs hurt, my breathing is heavy because I'm just starting. But what happens on day 15 and 21 and 46 and 72? Like it takes me longer to lose my breath, right? My legs actually don't hurt at mile 3. They hurt at mile 5. They don't hurt at 5. They hurt at 7. They don't hurt at 7. They hurt at 12. What's happening? Well, let's just take one thing that's happening, right? The first thing that's happening is my body is actually, no joke, creating and producing new capillaries in my legs and body, right? To bring oxygen to my legs. So I promise you, because I run fairly regularly, I promise you, this is not I'm winning, but I bet you I have more capillaries in my legs than someone else. Like, is that a good thing? I don't know, but it brings oxygen to my legs. Now, there are other people that have way more capillaries in their legs than me. But as I look around a team or I look around an organization, I know that there are some people that have more capillaries in their business than another. Why? Because they went for the 20-minute run. They went for the 40-minute run. They went for the 60-minute run. They went for the hour run. Now, I've pretty much stopped. Like I've hit my limit of what I want to achieve in running, right? And some people will say, well, that's failing, but just bear with me. So for me, 5-6 miles, I literally could do that every day. And it's really not pushing me. I'm not growing. I'm not getting better. I'm maintaining. Fair? So what is your stasis level? We all know it. Like, what is your stasis level, right? Think later today, hey, what is stasis for me in business? When do I show up? How do I show up? How many calls am I really willing? How many calls am I really willing to do? That is your stasis level today. And then we just need to ask ourselves, if we're not at goal, if we're not hitting goal, then the only thing that's standing between us and that is understanding that we have fallen into stasis. Recent studies have shown that learning a new skill is much more effective at triggering structural changes in the brain than just continuing to practice a skill that you've already learned. So be careful. Think about your practice. If you're only doing or learning the one script, the two scripts, like if you have your go-to and you're practicing it and practicing it and practicing it, you are going to stop getting better. Interestingly enough, people sometimes get frustrated at Ben and I, like, oh my gosh, you changed the listing presentation. It was fine. But listen, that was stasis. Like, if we don't change it, if we don't look at what is happening, if we actually don't look to get better, we will all fall into stasis as well. So that's why, as you look around and you look at your leader, right? When you look at your leaders that are on this Zoom, ask yourself, are they running? I mean, really, are they running? Like, I ask my partners, are we running? Are we willing to run? Are we willing to build capillaries in our legs? Are we changing what we do, how we do it, when we do it, with whom we do it? Stasis will hurt an organization because we all fall into that comfort zone. So I don't look at and worry about skill equals production. Does it? Sure, it does. But interestingly enough, I just look at willingness. And the reason why I do is because internally, it's easier to answer that question. Because if I'm willing, I could learn any skill. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's math or science or sales. It doesn't matter if I am willing, I can move the needle in the second half of the year. If I'm willing, I can move the needle this week or this month, or right, if I'm willing. So what do you think gets in the way of willingness? Not an easy question, guys, but it's one that I want to spend the rest of our time together on. What gets in the way of willing? Ego, ourselves, self-doubt, fear,
Limiting beliefs.
limiting beliefs.
Busyness.
Did someone say busyness?
Busyness.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I'll just add to that. Oftentimes it's contrived busyness. Oftentimes busyness gets in the way, but there's something slightly deeper around why we need to feel busy, want to feel busy, or find things to feel busy in based on it getting in the way, right? Sure. Anyone else?
I feel like, for me at least, I call it busyness, but it's really, I use that busyness as maybe like a reason, right, to procrastinate doing the things I know will move the needle forward. Like, I'm very clear being in this organization of what I need to do in my role to move forward, right, to help my people move forward. And whenever I don't do those things, I call it busy, but it's just procrastination. I just don't want to, there's something that's blocking me that I'm not dealing with.
Yeah, I think all of us get there almost at some point every single day. You know what I want you to write down? I want you to write down 2 words. Good enough. Most people live lives that are not particularly challenging. And so we settle for low levels of capability because it's enough for the day-to-day activities to get done. We think about, let's liken it to sports. There's probably a lot of people on here that play golf, right? They like golf. I've never swung a golf club, but some people play golf. Some people play tennis, right? They like tennis. Maybe you like hiking, or maybe you love, right? You ride a bike. But you're not a golfer. right? You're not a golfer. Like, even as much as you play golf, I mean, unless I'm wrong, like, you're probably not a golfer. I'm not a tennis player, right? I love tennis. I enjoy tennis, but I'm not a tennis player. Like, why? Well, because I do it on the weekends. I do it good enough, just enough. But see, so many run their businesses that way as well. Like, normal people don't run a mile in under 5 minutes or 10 miles in under an hour. Normal people don't throw a baseball 300 feet or hit a golf ball 300 yards. They don't do like double backwards somersaults and twists. Like, we don't. Because those are all sorts of things that require way more practice than we are willing to devote time to. So we're good enough at golf, so we enjoy it. We're good enough at our serve in tennis. We're good enough, right, on our bike ride. We're good enough hiking up that hill. We're good enough. The reason that we don't get extraordinary isn't because any one of us don't have the capability or capacity to become a professional golfer. In fact, in Anders Ericsson's last book, he follows this 30-year-old man who had never swung a golf club, who's from Portland, Oregon, oddly enough. And he became a professional golfer. And the reason why is because he had read Anders Ericsson's work and Malcolm Gladwell's work around practice and breaking through this idea of good enough. But the challenge in our industry is it's easy in real estate to be good enough. Why? Because you could sell 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 homes every single year. And financially, we're better off than the job that we came from, guys. Like, financially, we can pay our mortgage or pay our rent. We can put food on the table, right? We can make sure the lights are on, and in your state, AC is working. It's good enough. And that's a really dangerous place to be, because it means that we're going to struggle here because we talk about growth a lot. And we got in business with people that had a goal. And you see, when we make a promise to someone, we do not care about the goal that we promised to help you reach. And so there's this friction between I promised to help you get somewhere, and this friction with the human being. Now, don't take this like internally. Every human being, me included, moves towards stasis and good enough. The reason why I started talking about this and thinking about this, guys, is someone approached me recently. And I don't know what their intention was, and it doesn't matter. But they said, hey, could I ask you a question? When is enough enough? Now, I feel that was a very judgmental question, but it's a fair question, right? It's a fair question. And it took me a few days, truly, to really ask myself, well, gosh, right, when is enough enough? And for me, I had to really define what enough is. Like, not the second enough, but the first enough in that question. When is enough enough? Enough is what I choose to do. Like, that is the most important enough. But here's what I realized. People define it. Do not let people define it for you. See, they were defining it for me financially, weren't they? Right? When they looked at whatever they believe my world to be, and they said, hey, Chris, like, when is enough enough? They were trying to find my enough financially. We don't do that here. We do not look at an individual agent or a partner and say, hey, like, why aren't you making more money? Or why aren't you producing more GCI? Or why aren't you selling more homes? But here's what we do look at. We look at everyone's individual goal and see our leadership made a promise. And what you'll hear Ben and I say, and your leaders say again and again and again and again, is we are promise keepers here, right? I made a promise to Jordan a couple months ago to fly down to Dallas. Right? Why? Because that's what partners do. And I will tell you, I'm going to be on a flight on Monday of next week and Wednesday of next week and Thursday of next week and Saturday of next week. But you know what? I made a promise. I won't break a promise. We are promise keepers. So when people say, when is enough enough? When I've met all my promises, that is when enough is enough. But you know what I do?
Chris, I also think it goes back to what.
Yeah, Jordan.
I also think it goes back to when you and I first met about place, and you guys brought in infinite game, and that person's playing a finite game, and they're looking at enough money, enough what, versus like, I want to keep growing and I want to help everybody that we bring on board hit their goals. And so then enough is never enough, because I'm playing an infinite game. There is no such thing as enough.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jordan. And I think it's important for each of us to realize that that does not mean we are unhappy. That does not mean that we're unfulfilled. It does not mean that today isn't amazing and we're always looking for something different. Because if that was true, it would break down a massive part of our mission and vision for each person in our organization around experiential living. See, for me, if I'm living today experientially and delivering on promises, then what I do every day, I am living enough, right? From the outside, it looks like I'm chasing, but from the inside, every day is enough. But for me, enough means growth. One of the things that Anders Ericsson said in his book is this, and he was talking about just high performers in all areas of sports and industry. He said, the reason that most people don't possess extraordinary physical capabilities isn't because they don't have the capacity for them, but rather because they're satisfied to live in the comfortable rut of homeostasis and never do the work that is required to get out of it. They live in a world of good enough. And good enough generally is. Good enough generally is, especially in this industry. You have chosen truly the greatest industry of industries to be part of. Right? Why? Because even if you execute one time, you have delivered something that's going to change that human being's life forever. Truly, that's home ownership, guys. So good enough in our industry generally is. And that is what we need to be careful of. Now, while delivering an amazing dream of home ownership, you also make a lot of money. And sometimes we lose touch with that. And we think, well, I'm not making enough. The reality is, we are paid very, very well for what we do. And because of that, I believe as real estate agents and business owners, we have to fight good enough even more. Because like I said, 12 homes, good enough. 10 homes, probably good enough with some of our price points. Some of you, like 3 homes is good enough. But that means we're not generating or building any more capillaries, guys, right? We're not changing our physical brain, our physical body, our emotional brain, our emotional body, our chemical brain, our chemical body. So as I look at the next 6 months, I'm going to fight stasis, right? I'm going to fight good enough. I'm going to take a step back and ask, where do I need to get more excellent today, now, right? All of us have a different place in our world, in our life, in our business, that if we got more excellent, we'd go from 500 digits to 10,000 digits, from 10,000 digits to 70,000 digits, to 70,000 digits to 100,000 digits. But you see, as you look at the industry and you look around and you say, well, gosh, how is this person doing, selling 100 homes, literally 100 homes this year? And you know what? Don't compare based on a number, but compare based on the system and the habits and the rhythm and the schedule and the stasis that individual was willing to fight, and say, hey, let me talk to you. Let me talk to you about like how you fought stasis. How did you fight good enough? Those conversations are some of the most valuable conversations you could have in this industry. And the beautiful thing is you have a room full, a screen full, and a video full of people that have done it. And you can ask those questions and learn from and follow. And you also know that the system is here for it already. So what I wanted to share today, guys, it's the first day of the second half of the year, which is a temporal landmark, which, let's be honest, humans love temporal landmarks. Whatever happened before, forget it. Phenomenal, that's okay, forget it. Not so good, that's okay, forget it. Just started, awesome, forget it. Like today is a temporal landmark for the rest of 2021 in whatever we want to get better at. So let's just make July 1st an inventory day, the beginning of a new habit of consistency. And for those of you that I'll see, I guess that's about a week away. Looking forward to seeing you in person. And that is true. It's my first live event for like 2 years. So I'll probably suck, but at least we'll get to spend some time together.
I love that. You're awesome. Thank you so much. And aren't we all glad that good enough wasn't good enough for Chris, that if he would have stopped last year, we wouldn't have heard this message this year. So everything has a purpose, right? I love that. Next Thursday, Jordan and Elizabeth and KWYP Dallas, if you want to go to that, just reach out to one of us and we'll hook you up at Jordan's house. And maybe even like make you some dinner, take you out to dinner. Just definitely join us at 10 to 4 Dallas next week.
Someone just put the link in the chat.
I love it. Thanks, Elizabeth. And then for those of you who maybe are not driving or flying that day, 8:30 next Thursday, we will have an agent who closed 152 homes last year, 91% of them by referral. And that was a request from one of our top agents. How do I get more business by referral and haven't been in the business 30 years, right? Because if you've been in the business 30 years, good Lord, you should have business by referral. But what if you've been in business 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? Like, how do we build to that? I think you're going to get a lot of energy from her, and can't wait to have her host her at 8:30. So be there early, guys. You're the best. Jordan, Elizabeth, thank you so much. Chris, thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day, guys.
Thank you,
We'll see you
Chris.
next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, bye.
Everyone.